afternoon, everybody. Welcome to #GotMoney. I'm Elizabeth Jackson. We started about a month ago looking at financial abuse, and I'm learning so much about it, and I hope you guys are too. And there are organisations out there that work within the family violence space, and I've just discovered one of them fortuitously and gratefully, called WIRE. So I welcome Jessica Stott, who is a service delivery manager and currently the acting CEO of WIRE, to #GotMoney. Good afternoon, Jessica. Welcome to #GotMoney.
Thanks, Elizabeth. It's great to be here.
So, what do you do? Tell me about WIRE.
Yeah. WIRE is a service that's been around for quite some time now. It started in Melbourne in 1984. Originally, it was a phone support line only, which was for women, aimed to support women who were experiencing family violence, but it's grown quite a lot since that time. We now support people on a range of issues and support not just women, but also non-binary and gender diverse people as well. So I think it's grown very organically over that period of time, but it's had a model of support, which we call the WIRE model. It's our service delivery model. And that's the thing that has been there right from the beginning, and that we still rely on a lot now.
But something that's been central to the organisation for the whole time is the model of support that we use, which is a model that has a feminist framework, and now an intersectional feminist framework, and at its heart is empowerment.
Oh, that's so nice. At its heart is empowerment. So you want people to feel and be better as a consequence of connecting with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think by better, we would think of it as more connected to what it is that they are really wanting to do, and hopefully with some more information and resources to do that. It's kind of like it's the opposite to being told what to do.
Oh, that's so good.
We live in a society that often tells people what to do, and particularly certain groups of people often get told what to do and are often blamed for difficult circumstances that they find themselves in. And we're sort of aiming to dismantle that victim blaming narrative and put people back at the centre of their own lives and as the experts of their own lives, and really sort of believe in them and trust them, and aiming to facilitate conversations with people that help them to get in touch with what their next goals are, and then have a good chance of going out and addressing the goals.
So they become the centre of their own universe, and they trust themselves. Oh my God, that's so nice. So you're not damage control. Your narrative is much clearer than that, and it's more comforting, isn't it? Because it's about healing, isn't it? And self-healing. That's beautiful.
It can be.
I'm learning a lot of information about family violence as a consequence of doing this for the show. Talk to me about why people call WIRE. What's going on in their lives when they reach out to you?
Yeah, so we're now a generalist service. We provide support, information and referrals to people on any issue, and it's not just to women now, it's to women, non-binary and gender diverse people. But having said that, the main reason for contacting WIRE remains family violence. It's rare that will be the only reason. Family violence usually goes hand in hand with a whole lot of other things as well. So it could be going hand in hand with financial security, or employment, or housing, or mental health issues, or isolation. So we're a service that is very able to sort of cope with that whole person and people's whole situation, and we aim to sort of support people to unpack what's going on for them, and sort of try to order and prioritise their needs at the time. Yeah, but it does say a lot about the communities that we're living in, that family violence remains the main reason for contacting WIRE. And I think it sort of speaks to the inequity that happens across our community in very broad ways, and how built into the fabric of our society inequity is.
It's quite frightening, isn't it? It almost feels like it's archaic, but it isn't. It's here, and it's relevant, and it affects everyone. Well, it doesn't affect everyone, but it doesn't discriminate, family violence, does it?
Yeah.
And that's interesting, because we don't talk about family violence much within the LGBTQIA+ space. Talk to me about that, because that must be it's very interesting. We don't talk about it, but yet it happens. How does that show up?
I mean, family violence in the legal definition, which is from 2008, the Victorian legal definition, the Family Violence Protection Act, it really clearly outlines that it's any sort of behaviours that one person is subjecting another person to, which are controlling them through fear and intimidation. So if we think about who has power in our communities, we can kind of, think of different attributes that people have, and think about different sort of groups of people who are marginalised. But in any relationship, there can be an imbalance of power. And it's the way that power is used to abuse and control another person. So if we look at it like that, you can take gender off it entirely. And you can really see that family violence or abuse of power and control can happen in relationships of any gender, and also other intersections as well. It's not necessarily in intimate partner relationships. It can happen across generations and amongst adult siblings, and in a range of different relationships.
I'm starting to understand a little bit more about financial abuse. I just thought financial abuse was that they wouldn't give you you weren't allowed any money, but it's actually much broader than that, isn't it? And the other thing too, I didn't quite understand that financial abuse was a part of family violence, and it actually is, isn't it? You don't have. I remember talking to you initially, and you said some people don't get physically abused inside of that narrative, but they're not allowed any money. That's interesting to me. So how does that sometimes show up? What do we need to be looking out for in our own relationships, so we can start to discern whether we're actually in that kind of relationship?
Yeah, sure. So I think that financial abuse is when money is used as the tool of control or abuse. So it certainly could be someone not allowing someone else access to money that is theirs. It could also be things like, threatening or forcing someone to borrow money that they don't want to borrow, or getting out loans in someone else's name. And it's intrinsically related to family violence, because if there's that sort of overarching threatening atmosphere in a relationship and one person is scared of the other, it's quite easy for the person who's being threatening and controlling to use that intimidating atmosphere to get what they want around money as well. And I think that it's really interesting what you say, Elizabeth, about the linked nature of family violence and financial abuse. I think that often money is really hard to talk about. We've got that kind of bit of an old-fashioned narrative that it's distasteful to talk about money. And then there's the idea that some people are able to be good decision makers about money and some people aren't. But I think it is really important to talk about money. And when we start talking about it, we realise that it's linked to everything else in our life. It's not separate. It's very much central to all of our experiences.
I was on your website actually, and I've left it up on purpose, because inside of the WIRE website, and I'm saying this out loud because I want our listeners to go to it, there's a whole page committed to financial abuse. And I was reading it before. I mean, just forging a family member's signature on financial documents. That happens, doesn't it?
It absolutely does happen.
And there's elder abuse inside of this too, isn't it? Because it's not just about young people that are getting it. It's also about older people that are being abused by their own children too. Do you see much of that in your community work?
We really do. It's when age or someone's vulnerability because they are becoming elderly is used as a justification or an opportunity to take control of their money. So it, you know, kind of think about situations where elderly people might be, you know, disrespected, not believed, that there could be a picture painted of them that they're no longer able to make decisions about their finances or about other things. And so that control that should be with them is taken away from them for the financial benefit of children. It can also, sometimes that can be a gendered issue in there as well. Sometimes in families, it's the sons who are seen as more capable of managing money. And I've spoken to a lot of people at WIRE actually who have experienced that kind of financial abuse from their adult siblings. So it can kind of be happening. A person in a family situation like that can be financially abusive towards aging parents, but also to siblings as well. I mean, when you start sort of painting the picture, it's quite easy to relate to. It's not hard to imagine.
It's easy. I went through your list, and even in my own personal life, I can see where some of this has been evident in my history. And I don't think it would be hard for me to make the comment that a lot of people, if they go to this, will notice it in some way or another as an association to their own lives. How do you help those that show up to WIRE that have been through this kind of financial abuse? How do you put them back together?
It's probably not our role to put them back together, but our role is to sort of help them to unpack their story and be able to understand it within a framework, and then provide them with options for support. So a lot of the framework that we have in our communities is it's a framework that gives certain powers and decision-making power to some people and not others. And so part of our work is to dismantle those assumptions. So people will often come to us and talk about their experiences. It might be about their safety or their financial safety. It could be about a range of things, and they could have a sense of unease. But they are likely to be up against these community narratives that minimise their experience and often support the behaviours, or at least excuse the behaviours of the perpetrators. So a lot of our work is to kind of unpack that person's story in a way that we're believing them and validating their experience, and then providing them with a framework. We call it a feminist framework or an intersectional framework that can help them to that can shed light on why they're feeling that sense of unease about their own situation, because there is indeed inequity and abuse happening. We would then go on to sort of...
Sorry, I just want, it sounds so daunting that because you really have to unpick in some cases what could be an entire lifetime.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. But the person has always come to us. So central part of the work that we do is we're working with people who are inviting that conversation and inviting that new perspective. We're never sort of, pressuring anyone to engage in that conversation. And people it can be confronting to realize that people you've wanted to be loved by and people who you've trusted have been abusive and exploitative of that trust. But often it's very affirming of what people have experienced and empowering to have a conversation in which they are put back in the centre of their situation, and they are able to think about what their priorities really are and how they would like to address those with information and new resources.
It must be nice for them too, just to be acknowledged and heard. Just that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think a lot of them would actually know. Like, I didn't quite understand the definition of financial abuse till I started reading it. And the nice thing about what you do too is you allow them to step towards you, and then you can start helping them dismantle it, which is just beautiful. How have you been? How's your pace been, or your inquiry been over the period of COVID?
It's been intense. The way that we've been able to provide the service has changed, as you can imagine. So we've made a lot of very sort of thoughtful and considered adjustments to who provides our service and how we provide it. There was a point, I think it was at the beginning of the second lockdown, where we were absolutely inundated by calls, and that was a time that was quite stressful for us as a service, but we were very sort of uncompromising about the service that we provided. And for the community, it's I feel that what I've really seen is that people's challenges for people have been playing out in different ways. It's the same themes, but because the circumstances are different, people's lives look a little bit different. I think a lot of things have come to a head for people if they have lost work, or partners have lost work. There's added financial pressure and stress. If people are in lockdown together, things are likely to, become escalated if they're heading that way already. People have had less ability to keep themselves safe and to look after their own well-being. People may have done things like left the house if things were getting escalated, or visited a friend, or gone to work. But so many of those options for promoting safety are different now and have changed. But the thing that we've noticed so much is the incredible resilience and creativity and willingness to, people's willingness to accept that the service system is not really it's never been the answer, and it's probably not going to be the answer now. And that a huge amount of sort of drawing upon community resources and personal resources and self-advocacy is necessary at a time like this. And I've just noticed that people have really stepped up in the most incredible ways in their own lives. So the work that we do at WIRE, some people might think that it's draining, but it's often incredibly inspiring and energizing to be working with our communities, who are so impressive.
Isn't that incredible that as a result of this, you have noticed that while your workload has increased and there's been a great need, that those individuals that are being dealt to by these perpetrators are actually standing up for themselves? Isn't that incredible? It speaks so beautifully to the human nature. Oh, that's such a good way to end this. Oh, that's beautiful. How do our audience find you?
The audience can find us online on wire.org.au. We have a lot of information online, as you've mentioned, Elizabeth. We have a booklet on financial abuse and some on family violence as well. If you go onto the website, you can contact us via live chat as well. You can contact us by phone on 1300 134 130 or by email at support@wire.org.au.
Let me ask you one thing. So there are individuals that are at home right now that might be in this situation. What do you want to say to them on ending?
I would say trust yourself. You deserve support. Your gut sense is right, and you're very welcome to get in touch with us and explore that more.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for joining me on Got Money. That was very, very cool. I appreciate your time. We're going to do more shows on financial abuse. I'm starting to unpack a greater understanding as to what that looks like, and I hope that you are, my audience, as well. If you need any help, we're here for you at Got Money. We'll certainly direct you to our guests. Please don't be afraid to reach out to WIRE. They're also a very friendly, community-based organisation, and as you know, it's nice to go somewhere where you don't have to start the conversation about your sexual orientation first. That is not on the table here with WIRE. Take care, everyone. Have a safe week, and we look forward to being with you all again next week. See, that was easy, wasn't it?